Now, before diving into the contents of this video, I have to tell you something first. Halfway through recording, I had to pause production and listen to my own advice. I really poured all the energy that I had into the heartfelt message that I put in this video, and I just needed to take care of myself after that. So I recorded this on 2 different days, and I'm behind my schedule of when I wanted to post. So I'm worried that if I didn't explain this first, then you might just skip over this video and lose out on something that holds so much value and wisdom that I know could help you on your own healing journey and finding your inherent net worth. And that's because this video was inspired by the recent full moon in Taurus that happened on Friday. And if you're not familiar with the cyclical nature of astrology, then you might think that this information is no longer relevant, which would be incorrect. Not only does the energy of astrology live within each one of us despite the current transits, but every transit initiates a longer cyclical cycle that plays out over time, not just on the day that it occurs. So this particular full moon will continue to play out especially strong for the next 2 weeks as the moon wanes to complete this lunar cycle, but it also ties into the overarching Taurus moon cycle, which won't phase out of this current cycle until May of next year, when it restarts on the next Taurus new moon. So with that said, I hope that you find this video to be as valuable as what this energy has personally taught me. It's my longest video to date, but if you make it all the way through, I think you too will agree. It's completely worth the time invested. Now onto the video, please enjoy. This full moon is dynamic and full of possibility. It carries a profound opportunity to release karmic fears, find empowerment through self-trust, and to embrace resilience. So despite your political views, it sounds like we can all benefit from this energy. Well, that's actually always true, so I don't know why I felt it was brilliant to just state the obvious there. I guess it just feels like we need to be reminded that we're all human. So despite how we judge our differences, at the end of the day, we're actually just all the same. And I think most of us would agree. The world feels kind of scary these days. But what counters anxiety? Knowledge and grounded understanding. So sit tight, because in today's video, we're exploring the deeply transformative energies of the Taurus full moon, culminating at 24 degrees on November 15th, 2024. This is a potent full moon, made even more powerful by its conjunction with Uranus at 25 degrees Taurus, right next to the fixed star Algol, aka the demon star. It's known as one of the most intense stars in the sky. Algol embodies themes of betrayal, transformation, and powerful, often fearsome energies, and when it's activated, it suggests a deep potential for confronting chaos or karmic patterns. While Uranus, the planet of sudden change and awakening, is bringing an electrifying quality to this full moon. So expect surprises, shifts, or revelations that could shake up the status quo and possibly your sense of security. This full moon is a time to focus on what truly matters and trust our inner guidance, regardless of life's ups and downs. So fear not, because the energy of this full moon holds the power to bring you to the beauty of your soul. So let it illuminate your strength, your perseverance, and your power to create the life that you truly desire. So let's calm these nerves and talk about why this is such a cosmic opportunity for the collective and how you personally can make the most of it. And the effects of this one came early for me, so let's just say, boy, do I have a story to tell you. Hello, beautiful star siblings. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, I'm happy I found you. I'm Bree, and welcome to Stella Sage, the channel all about holistic healing and personal development inspired by the cosmos. Every other week, we go deep down the rabbit hole for each lunation and discuss how the energy can play out in our lives. Because once we know the cosmic plan, it gets a whole lot easier and way more fun to co-create our destiny. It's my mission to help others on the path of emotional healing and self-discovery through the lens of esoteric understanding and personal experience. I also offer spiritual healing practices and Reiki meditations. So if that sounds like your vibe, then make sure you subscribe. I, for one, would love to add you to our growing family. So thanks for bringing us your energy. Now, I'm sure we're all feeling politically depleted by now and would rather just avoid the topic altogether. But I mention it because not only is it timely to talk about, but it also fits with the energetic themes that are coming to the fore in the astrology. And it's a topic that completely unexpectedly has actually led me to unveil a really important message that deserves to be heard for its profound healing potential. So let's start by understanding the energy of Taurus and this full moon. Then I'd like to humanize the collective drama with a personal story that I believe can touch us all to a heart-centered place of understanding despite your political ideology. After that, we'll look at the esoteric symbolism that's coming through as we dive deeper into the current planetary aspects and discover how this full moon can be a powerful catalyst for personal empowerment and spiritual growth. So let's dive in, shall we? This full moon in Taurus is exact at 24 degrees, with the sun opposing it in Scorpio. Full moons highlight culmination, release, and realization. And in the fixed earth sign of Taurus, these themes revolve around stability, grounding, and material security. The moon is exalted in Taurus, meaning it really likes it here. It amplifies a peaceful, sensual energy, inviting us to pause and take in the world around us with a calm presence. This full moon may bring heightened emotions and energy, yet Taurus calls us to find stillness in the body, connect with our senses, and ground ourselves in the here and now. As a fixed sign, its energy is steady, reliable, and unchanging. While this energy can sometimes get a reputation for being stubborn, I'd like to think of it as determined. Taurus knows the importance of putting in consistent effort over time, building a foundation that lasts. This energy reminds us to slow down, take our time, and to invest in what truly matters to us. Its symbol as a bull is a powerful animal totem, representing qualities like strength, stability, determination, fertility, and resilience. Known for its earthy, grounded energy, the bull embodies qualities of both gentleness and raw power, as well as a deep connection to the natural world. Taurus, rooted in the earthy realms of sensation and material security, draws our attention to things that we can touch and hold, finances, resources, and tangible comforts. But it also connects us to our inner wealth, like self-worth, resilience, and creativity. Taurus teaches us that true abundance comes from within, flowing naturally when we honor our own strength and believe in our inherent worthiness of comfort and pleasure. This energy reminds us that self-worth isn't about what we achieve, but about what we believe we deserve. Are we taking care of ourselves? Are we treating ourselves with the respect we want others to show us? Taurus asks us to examine what we value most and whether we're living in alignment with those values. This is Taurus energy at its best, grounding us in our own inherent worth. Taurus is the second sign of the zodiac and is ruled by the planet Venus, the goddess of love, beauty, and values. Venus blesses Taurus with a deep appreciation for everything that stimulates the senses, whether that's a beautifully prepared meal, a piece of luxurious fabric, or the natural beauty of a forest. Taurus energy is all about presence, stability, and the joy that comes from connecting deeply with the physical world around us. We can also see why Taurus rules the second house by its traditional associations with personal resources, finances, self-worth, and material possessions. It governs what you value, not just in terms of wealth, but also in terms of skills, talents, and self-esteem. The second house also connects us to self-sufficiency and how one meets their basic needs, influencing spending habits, earning potential, and attitude towards material comfort. Hence why I am wearing my Material Girl 9 of Pentacles hoodie I designed, even though it's technically associated with Venus and Virgo, another earth sign. It's very similar to this energy too. Now, I will say this card does have a special meaning for me personally, but stylistically, this is definitely my favorite piece of clothing that I sell. And it's got a really cute hoodie with some flowers. I love it. And then on the back, it has the card associations and has the description. So, if you like it, go get your own on my website at stellasage.com. We are living in a material world, and I am a material girl. Which, not gonna lie, Quite true. Taurus reminds us that abundance begins with gratitude for what we already have. By fully embracing the feeling of gratitude, we activate a magnetic force for more of what we desire, while also realizing that in this moment, we are already enough. Scorpio, on the other hand, is all about transformation, emotional depth, and the shedding of old skin to reveal our true self. So this full moon brings a powerful call to find a balance between material security and emotional transformation. Scorpio's intensity pulls us into the deeper emotional truths, asking us to examine our fears, shadows, and hidden desires. Taurus, however, grounds us, reminding us that if we have a solid foundation, we are safe to explore these depths. This opposition brings an invitation to release what keeps us from stability and peace, whether it's emotional baggage or outdated beliefs. Together, the Taurus-Scorpio axis encourages us to find a balance between external stability and inner transformation, and to bring our physical and emotional lives into harmony. This axis encourages us to embrace change from a place of inner stability. In this space, you are supported to let go of control and step into a new level of inner strength and self-assurance. It's about strengthening the structures within us and our lives so that we can support the transformations that we are undergoing. This full moon, conjunct Uranus and Algol, creates an intense opportunity to transform from upheaval, liberating ourselves from stagnant energies. Algol, often called the demon star, carries an energy of intense resilience, strength, and protection, often associated with facing down our deepest fears or karmic patterns that we've avoided. Algol, a fixed star at around 26 degrees of Taurus, has long been associated with intense, sometimes dark energy in astrology. Named from the Arabic Ra-al-Gol, meaning head of the goal or demon's head, represents the severed head of Medusa in the constellation of Perseus. In Greek mythology, Medusa, once beautiful, was transformed by Athena into a monster with hair of snakes and a deadly gaze. Perseus later killed Medusa by using his shield as a mirror, safely decapitating her. Hence why in astrology, the star is associated with losing one's head, which isn't always literal, but speaking of which, it just so happens that back in July, at the time of the attempted assassination of President-elect Donald Trump, this star was being activated by the planet of violence and conflict, Mars, also conjunct Uranus. Trump's midheaven, the head of the chart, or the highest point, is conjunct Algol, which according to Astrology King, indicates a splendid and illustrious life, glorious, mighty, and commanding nature, fame, busy with many activities, bountiful resources, well-known or feared in cities and regions, prosperity from youth and a known city, but it also comes with a dark side, which I'll just let you read because I'd probably get flagged by YouTube if I said all these words. I really don't know how that works, if having a picture is any better, but whatever. Well, that just so happens to be a grimly fitting segue into the next part of this video, where I want to share a personal story that just so happens to combine all of this energy into a deep dive into my own psyche. My hope is that by sharing my internal thought process and nugget of perspective with others, it might lead someone else to experience their own breakthrough, or at the very least, spark a more empathetic understanding. But fair warning, it might seem like I'm going off the rails down a completely irrelevant and long tangent, but the moral of the story does boil down to the lesson Taurus tries to teach us, and totally relates to the notion of losing one's head. But what I have to say could be emotionally triggering to hear, so listen at your own discretion. If you're sensing it's TMI or you feel annoyed that I'm talking about myself, then just skip over to the next section. It's why I put timestamps. Otherwise, let's get personal as I use this story as yet another means to explain this cosmic message. So last week, I was talking with a friend of mine about relationships, and she mentioned this dream she had. Little did I know it then, but would end up being the catalyst for my biggest psychological breakthrough yet, and go on to inspire this entire story. But how crazy is this? A psychological breakthrough isn't the only mind-blowing thing about the story. See, not only did this dream she had happen to take place on the same night as the Scorpio new moon that marked the start of this very lunar cycle, but the story I'm about to share with you heavily discusses the karmic nature of this very friendship and the influence that she's had on me. Now, just guess what sign her natal moon is in. If you said Taurus, then you'd be right. And this lucky bitch also has Venus in this sign conjunct her midheaven, both of which are not only conjunct this full moon, but also my natal vertex, which happens to be in none other than my 8th house, the house of deep psychological transformation, the house Scorpio rules. In astrology, the vertex is a calculated point which represents fated events, encounters, or people that have a profound impact on our lives, and often acts as a gateway to experiences that feel destined or transformative. So having mine in the 8th house in the sign of Taurus suggests fated encounters and transformative experiences that revolve around themes of stability, resources, intimacy, and deep psychological growth. This placement is meant to guide me towards grounding my values into areas that challenge comfort zones, especially around intimacy, shared resources, and emotional vulnerability. So let's see how I do. Like I said, are you ready to get personal? My friend writes, in this dream, I met a woman who felt she was too hard to take care of, which led her to avoid letting others take care of her. Her words deeply affected me, as I felt that her resistance to receiving care might come from an underlying feeling of not deserving it. She denied this was her reason, but I couldn't shake the sense that it implied self-worth issues. Now, I was shocked when she shared this with me because this very predicament had been consuming my mind for days prior to this conversation, considering whether or not I should open myself back up to the dating life. But as we went on to interpret her dream, we realized that we both carry a deeply rooted negative belief about ourselves. We both secretly feel we're too much to handle, like we're a burden to others, or don't feel worthy of getting our needs met. For me, this belief traces back to the ways ADHD has impacted my life. Not only as a factor that contributed to the end of my marriage, but also as a source of deep-seated shame. So you could probably already see the connection to Taurus, since this sign governs the topics of self-worth and self-reliance. But it got me to thinking about how this belief is impacting all areas of my life, limiting not just my personal growth, but my professional and spiritual growth as well. But it also connects to something far beyond me, and that's politics. Okay, I know that might sound random, but just hear me out. Now, who knows if I would have had this revelation had this topic not been so relevant due to the elections. But since I only now just realized this perspective, it kind of feels like it was the missing piece I needed to actually see it. But boy, the process that got me there was a trip, but wow, do I feel enlightened now. So my ex-husband, who was 10 years my senior, held a degree in political science and was incredibly passionate about it. But up until recently, I was the kind of person who not only neglected to find politics interesting, but I despised it. My argument against it was chalked up to the opinion I held about how it always felt to me like it was just some popularity contest where people voted based on which false persona they liked more and ways they just want to control what others do instead of focusing on really what they just need to do to manage themselves. But another reason was because I had always felt too insignificant to have any influence one way or the other. So why worry about the rules at all? So just tell me what to do and I will play along. And despite me feeling a lot of shame for being so ignorant on the matter, I still just overly relied on the opinions of my ex-husband to guide me, instead of taking on the responsibility of doing my own research and judging for myself what's best for me. And that reliance became a habit, one that bled into many other facets of our relationship, which came with a lot of shame and guilt. But it also had a subconscious root that I never questioned until now. Well, as far as politics goes, the other stuff has long been in the works. But there's an even deeper psychological reason for why I felt such a great deal of resistance towards politics, and ended up being the key to understanding so much more than just that. But in order to get to the deep, raw root of it, there's a lot to unpack. And it's kind of necessary that you know the background details to really understand. So, come, take a journey with me. Though, trigger warning, if you can relate, then you might feel like I'm unpacking some of your own shit too in the process. But trust me, it is so worth it. Now, back to the dream. So, as my friend and I continue to delve into what that dream brought to the surface for us, it sparked a conversation that made me confront a deeper aspect of myself. A side of me that is shadowed by selfishness. It made me think back to when I was a child. I'd have these episodes where I'd lose all sense of self-control, lashing out in ways that felt unrecognizably rude and selfish and really reckless. And here's the strange part. This friend of mine, who I love dearly, is one of the few people who triggers these explosive reactions in me. But when it happens, it doesn't stop with her. It spills over, affecting anyone that's nearby. And in those moments, I become someone who's not just inconsiderate, but reckless with people's feelings. And if you understand astrology, you know that for a Libra rising with a 5-planet Capricorn stellium, that is wildly out of character. See, it appalls me for anyone, but especially myself, to act so immature and be so irresponsible with others' feelings. It's as if in those moments, I temporarily lose my mind, becoming the real-life Medusa. Now, over the years, this friend and I have had countless conversations about her struggles in relationships. I've been her go-to confidant to complain about her romantic partners, the role of all best friends. But see, I fill this role not just as a compassionate ear and ego booster, but also a tough love devil's advocate. Not many people can handle it, but that's just who I am. Fully aware, she still chose me as her go-to. And while I am honored to hold that space for her, I've noticed a pattern. These talks sometimes wreak havoc on my own psyche because they reflect back my own struggles. Listening to her stories of what can be seen as mistreatment from her partners, I'd catch myself defending certain behaviors. Not because they were right, but because they were things that I'd done myself in moments that I wasn't very proud of. I would often recognize how similar these experiences sounded compared to my own episodes, where I would be considered the abuser. And I completely agree with her. I am nasty in those moments. I don't like myself in those moments. I want to do better than those moments. I know I am better than those moments. But I also recognize it's behavior that's normally out of character for me. I'm being provoked into that state. and usually by the same kind of complaints that her exes would tell her. You see, what felt to me like more often than not was that I'd use these conversations as a space to speak my truth from a calm, collected place, not from the defensive or reactive state I'm in when I'm actually experiencing those episodes. And I'd explain how I've personally felt in similar situations where I lashed out at her, hoping that she'd see her own role in her conflicts. I would try to explain my own triggers, giving her a perspective that I hoped she could use to mend her relationship issues. But see, I've never been one to shy away from owning my shortcomings because I'm human. No one is perfect. So what is the harm in focusing on where there are opportunities for growth instead of avoiding them or pretending like they don't exist? Yet, I've realized that this is not the typical mindset for most. So it's been my hope that by me so openly willing to discuss my flaws, it can help others feel safer to acknowledge their own and not feel judged for it. But that's really difficult to do when you feel like a victim. But the truth is, hardly anything happens in a vacuum. Far more often, we always hold some level of accountability for what we experience in life. So I would always hold compassionate space for my friend to accept accountability for her role in the situation. Which, to her credit, sometimes there really wasn't any for her to own. But other times, I just wished that she would think to question, how might her actions have triggered that kind of extreme reaction and behavior from them to begin with? Which I know that sounds cruel, but I also know that you can't heal from a place of disempowerment. And I hated every time she seemed to force my hand at calling it out for her, explaining what I have personally felt was true in my cases, which felt like I was carelessly pushed over my limit by what felt to me as endless pokes of her selfish, bossy, needy behavior. She definitely likes to get her way, which who doesn't? But she's really persistent and likes to test people's boundaries. She's the kind of person that if you give an inch, she will take a mile. But before you go judging me for publicly discussing my friend's personal life, for years, she's been saying she wants us to start a podcast where we record these exact conversations. And we're closer than ever to finally getting around to actually doing it. Like, we have a name picked out, a website purchased, and everything. We know it's relatable because we all have our shit. So who's to judge, really? But my defensiveness in these conversations did not go unnoticed by me. I realized it would often become this goal of mine where I felt I needed to prompt an empathetic understanding for my own misconduct, even though it had nothing to do with me. But it would end up feeling like it, though, through my arbitrary argument of defense for why these guys might have become abusive towards her. Which then I would be like, wait, what? Why am I doing this? Now I'm trying to defend behavior that was often far more severe than anything I had ever done, yet I noticed myself feeling guilty as if I had. Like, I was taking on the guilt for these guys, but also drudging up the guilt from my past wrongs, and now also feeling guilty that I was defending these dudes to my wounded friend. Like, just imagine this. It's just some normal, uneventful day, and then picking up the phone to talk to your friend, but then hanging up to all levels of guilt beginning to flood your psyche. Like, whoa, get a grip, right? But I thought, if she couldn't even own her part in what she's done to trigger that sort of behavior out of me, then how could I really trust this wasn't similar to what these guys had experienced too? Even though, which she knows, my loyalty would always end with her. And I do believe she's worth it. And of course, no one should ever feel like they're being put in danger by another. But I finally had to tell her, look, this is a pattern. Like I said, guys, plural. But there's only one common denominator. So at what point do you stop to think, it's me, hi, I'm the problem, it's me. And she, of all people, knows that I will have a compassionate understanding waiting for her whenever she gets there. And look, we're all in a growth process, just trenching along at our own pace. And whatever that is totally fine. But at the same time, I also desire a certain level of emotional maturity from the people that I associate myself with. Especially when you're repeatedly coming to me for advice, which she knows, if you're talking to me, that's what you're going to get, whether you want it or not. So, not going to lie and say that this hasn't caused me frustration over the years. To literally listen to the same story playing on repeat. Looking to complain, but not change. But let's be real, like, it's not going to stop me from still loving her anyway. But speaking of growth process, now back to me. So for some reason, I felt like this last conversation prompted something different from me. I felt called to reflect on what I'm actually feeling in those moments where I lose control. To investigate, what is it that really triggers that kind of reaction out of me? I mean, I've always known it's been centered around the topics of empathy and accountability. More specifically, when I'm sensing a situation in which there's a lack thereof. But I never questioned why that bothers me so much. I mean, maybe I have, but like, this was different. And yeah, I definitely had some level of consciousness for what was triggering me with her. But I could not recall, why did I experience so many of those episodes as a child where I lashed out at my parents and sister for no apparent reason? Like, I can't remember, because there wasn't really a trigger for those times. And then it hit me. Now, I know I'm focusing a lot on the negative here, but I love my friend to death. Not just because of all the fun times that we've shared together and all the extremely deep conversations that we've had over our 20-year friendship, but also because I know deep down she has a really good heart. But she's also an only child that has lived a very blessed and financially privileged life. She's someone who fundamentally has good intentions, but at times she can come off as spoiled, inconsiderate, and self-absorbed, seeming to be completely unaware of the impact of her actions on others. And maybe it's only because I know her deeper nature isn't any of those things why it triggers me so bad when her mentality and behavior seems to prove otherwise. And that is just it. That is what she's mirroring back at me. Let me explain. Just bear with me. There's something else I need to say first, but I will close all of these loops, I promise. Now, even though I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD until my late 20s, I realized at a young age that I perceive the world differently than most people. I process information differently, and I just don't function the same way others do. So as a survival mechanism, I had to consider other people's perspectives in order to alter myself to better fit in with the mainstream. But beyond ADHD, I recently discovered that I also have the rarest personality type, according to Myers-Briggs, that is. So as an INFJ, I'm part of only 1.5% of the population that share this profile. So clearly, it has taken a great deal of energy and effort for me to try to be like others. And what do both of these things have in common? Well, lots of things actually, but both tend to be high masking empaths. They are both characterized for being emotionally sensitive, with difficulty separating their own feelings from those of others, which leads to emotional exhaustion and eventually burnout. Or in my case, multiple burnouts. So it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? What came first? Is empathy a gift or a forcefully learned skill? Well, sometimes it just feels like a curse. And is ADHD even really a disorder or something else entirely? But whatever the case, I had to learn how to adapt. And to a large extent, that's defined my relationships. I've spent years learning to consider others' feelings to make them comfortable, despite the discomfort that puts me through. Sounds a lot like Libra too, doesn't it? Like Taurus, Libra is also ruled by Venus. And if you've been following along since my eclipse videos, then you might be noticing a trend here. But both ADHD and the INFJ can be described as having an empathetic, insightful, and idealistic nature. INFJs are known to be driven by their values, prioritizing empathy and emotional intelligence, often putting others' needs before their own. They are sensitive to others' emotions and can be deeply affected by injustice or suffering, feeling an extensive need to help make a positive impact, not just on others, but on the world at large. But at least to me, it's clear how different I am. Like, I'm extremely sensitive, but because of so, I'm also used to the discomfort. So it just seems like I'd be able to handle it easier than others. So let me just do what I can to help. So I guess you could say I've developed a high tolerance to pain. But the point is, somehow deep down, I've always felt that getting into politics would just utterly consume me. I feel the suffering in the world on such a visceral level, it's beyond overwhelming. And that's when I'm not even consciously aware of what's happening out there. So no wonder why I've always been so resistant to paying attention to it all. See, reflecting upon this conversation with my friend was what finally made me realize self-absorption is my coping mechanism for extreme empathy. Despite the judgment behind it, it doesn't change the fact that that's true. For me, to take care of myself, I actually need to be more selfish. But there's a paradox here. My survival mechanisms have made me so outwardly considerate that when others aren't, I feel that imbalance acutely. And that's where resentment lies. It's not that I don't want to help. It's that constantly being considerate of others takes a toll on me. I exhaust myself carrying so much and trying to be the person everyone needs. And when people closest to me act in ways I perceive as selfish, it feels like a painful reminder of everything I deny myself. But this is where I find something profound. She's holding up a mirror to parts of myself that I spent a lifetime suppressing. And through this reflection, I'm realizing that the root of these episodes, these moments when I lose control, is the sheer weight of carrying so much sensitivity. It's so overwhelming that sometimes it just gets to be too much. I just need it all to stop. Stop carrying and just be reckless. The truth is, this relentless empathy, like, I really think I might be cursed. And even though that's truly how I feel, it's also something I deeply value as part of myself. Oh, And there's no doubt, it definitely comes with a hefty price. When that emotional pressure builds, it's like a ticking time bomb. The pendulum swings dramatically to the other side. I go from self-sacrificing to self-centered, driven to protect myself from everyone around me by just not caring at all about anything. I know the value I place on being considerate of others. And when I feel like I'm not receiving that in return, resentment builds. Especially so when what I do seems to go completely unnoticed. And the hardest part is, this only happens with people I love and trust. The very people who know my struggles and could give me that consideration. In those moments, I'm reacting not to their behavior, but to my own unmet needs, which I sometimes wish I could just express as freely as they do, and not feel selfish for it or like a burden. But that's why only the people closest to me are really the only ones who can trigger me to that extent, to the extent of abusing those very same people that I care most about. Because I know it's not for their lack of ability to be more considerate, or their level of consciousness, or lack of character, but instead, it's because I know them well enough to gather their seemingly ignorant or selfish behavior, which could very well just be a healthier level of self-care. I've decided it seems to be more so rooted in laziness. It's easier to care less. And that's especially triggering for me because I have been perceived as lazy my whole life. And the reasoning for is due to the sheer amount of energy I spend not being lazy. How much time and effort that I put into not just considering what others are feeling, but also caring enough to try to understand why they feel such way. And using this perspective to morph myself into a type of person that makes them feel comfortable and supported. So the truth is, maybe sometimes I wish I actually had the option to just choose to be lazy so that I didn't have to feel so exhausted all the time. But want to know what's the most frustrating thing of all? Because I am so self-aware and empathetic, I can actually feel the impact that my actions have on others as if I am them. And how they view what are actually just symptoms of ADHD as personal insults to them. Things like not responding back to texts, showing up late, being distracted, or responding to their concerns by what I think is a way to relate, but what could be seen as me just wanting to talk about myself. Like, it seems to them like I'm just being self-absorbed, inconsiderate, and careless, when that couldn't be any farther from the truth. And there it is. That is why my friend triggers me so much. She's mirroring back at me all of the times that I have been misperceived by people. And this is why being neurodivergent is so lonely. Because even if I do try to explain myself, I just sound like I'm making up excuses or looking for pity, when all I ever really wanted is for others to just consider a different perspective. So I could just finally feel seen and just maybe even appreciated for being what I value most about myself. And this is also why I've suffered from so much narcissistic abuse. Because I just assume that all the red flags are just because they're secretly suffering in the same ways I am. And it's just all a complete misunderstanding. Now, I could actually go on and talk about how all of this relates to Trump and the US election, which I feel like I can not only understand what happened there, but also like empathize with both sides. Maybe now that you know me so well, you can imagine how much I've pondered about what's unconsciously going on in the collective psyche, which I think I can explain in a way that can not only challenge people's perceptions, but can also help to unify humanity back to our natural state of being. But you'll have to wait to hear that in my next video, which is inspired by Pluto's transit into Aquarius, which is only a few days away. So I'm probably going to be late on that because, I need to still like process and write it out. And I'm going to be exhausted after this one, like really exhausted. I'm actually recording this the morning of the full moon. So the editing is probably not going to be very good. And there's still so much more I want to say. It's just too good to not talk about. So I hope people watch it. I hope it's not all a waste. I do my best. But to conclude with this, maybe the takeaway isn't just that as a collective, we can never really know the whole story for anything. But if we aim to be more empathetic and considerate of others, it can really go a long way in helping each other feel cared for. But on the same token, we also need to recognize our limits and find the right balance of both, so we all don't end up like me and just neglect our own self-care needs. Like I'm a total masochist or something. I think that's the right word. Like, I know I do it to myself. Which is also why it's hard to allow help from others, because it's like, I do it to myself, so like I don't want to like then hand that off to someone else to deal with, you know? Like, why should they have to like sign up for that? They didn't do it. Like, yeah. That fucking dream. Like, my friend is really kind of psychic. Like, this is just so, like, it just hit so strongly that it's, like, it almost feels like she's being told, like, to, like, do this to me. Like, it just seems too on purpose. Like, she knew what she was doing all along. Like, she knew something I didn't. And I was just, like, in the dark, by myself, trying to wrap my head around what the fuck. But I can say, one of the benefits that just naturally comes along with developing empathy is discernment. You become more attuned to people's truth, even when they don't speak it. So as long as you don't lose a healthy sense of self-reliance and self-worth along the way, you'll know that you'll always be able to protect yourself, because you can trust those inner nudges of, you know, and you won't gaslight yourself into making up excuses for them. And that is the highest expression of the Taurus-Scorpio axis right there. But take it from me so that you don't have to learn the hard way. Having empathy while also lacking self-worth is a recipe for self-abandonment and betrayal. You have to be able to trust yourself that you'll take care of yourself first and foremost, or else you'll never have a foundation to stand on. Empathy and consideration are beautiful qualities, but we can't allow ourselves to be consumed by them. We have to remember that taking care of ourselves, setting boundaries, expressing our needs, and allowing ourselves to rest is not selfish. It's survival. It's responsible. And what I continually have to remind myself, you cannot help anyone if you're dead. I'm being facetious, but what I mean is energetically depleted. Referring back to Taurus, money, skills, talent, those are all energetic resources that suffer when you're not acting in alignment with your self-care needs. And again, like, I've learned the hard way. Listen to me. This full moon is calling us to release what keeps us from inner peace and to move into a new space of security, one that is not dependent on external factors. And if I've learned anything by all this, the biggest takeaway would be, instead of worrying about whether or not others should be more empathetic and considerate, I just need to grant myself the same empathy that I extend to everyone else and just focus on caring for myself more instead. Even if it's half as much as I typically do thinking about others' needs, I'm sure it would be enough to begin feeling a hell of a lot more abundant in life. So that actually reminds me of the Empress Major Arcana tarot card. And I'd like to read you the message for both her and the Hierophant cards out of the Crystal Magic tarot book. Both of these cards are associated with the sign Taurus, and I just love the way that the authors of this book write about the wisdom of these cards. I'll start with the Empress because the Hierophant card will lead us perfectly into the final portion of this video, where I'll explain the other transit aspects occurring alongside this full moon and teach you how you can best co-create with this energy. The Empress card is the number 3 in the Major Arcana and is associated with the crystal chrysocolla. Talisman. I wish for abundance in my life. Interpretation. The Empress is like a Mother Nature figure, representing animals, children, family, creativity, abundance, love, and the natural world. Simply the best pleasures in life that are free. Fertility is heavily associated with this card, so it can indicate the birth of something in your life, perhaps a child, but maybe also a pet, home, project, or relationship. As an attitude or approach, this card advises you to invest in those you love, to be nurturing, kind, motherly, and protective. On the shadow side, the Empress can be codependent upon or overprotective of those she loves and cares for. You need to let them find their own way, even if it clashes with yours. Correspondences. The Empress is associated with Venus, which links to Taurus, late April through May, an earth sign, and Libra, late September through October, an air sign. It is also linked with Friday, which just happens to be the same day this full moon culminates. People represented. If the Empress represents a person in your reading, it is likely to be a matriarchal character, someone who is kind and peaceful, who loves animals and is creative and outdoorsy. This person could be a Libra or Taurus. Affirmation associated with this card: I am abundant and attracting new life into my world. Chrysocolla is a stone of wisdom, feminine power, and intuition. It is a gentle but powerful crystal associated with nurturing, comforting, and life-giving femininity. With its deep, rich color, this copper-based stone brings support and compassion, and can aid forgiveness and lift depression. Whenever you feel as if you need the comfort of home-cooked food, a day under a heavy blanket, or a reassuring hug, Chrysocolla is there for you. As a talisman, Chrysocolla can be used for any relationship that needs nurturing or healing, or in situations or places, especially at home, that require stability. And the Hierophant is the 5th card in the Major Arcana, and is aligned with the crystal sodalite. Talisman. I wish to contribute to the greater good of my family, community, society, and or planet. Interpretation. A Hierophant is actually a priest who interprets esoteric mysteries. This card asks you, what do you believe in? And guides you to assess whether this belief and faith is still serving you well, whether it is relevant, necessary, and right. Are you authentic in following through in what you believe in? Are you honest about your alignments? It urges you to stand by the structures you belong to and trust. As an attitude or approach, this card is telling you to work towards the greater good, to join in and be part of something bigger and better than anything you could achieve alone. On the shadow side, the Hierophant can be overbearing and self-righteous. believing his opinion to be somehow above that of others and worthy of blind consent and acceptance. The correspondence of the Hierophant is associated with Taurus, and because of Taurus's link to Venus, could also be said to represent Fridays. It corresponds to the energies of the earth. People represented by this card in a reading might be a Taurus, or they're a person who has some position of authority in relation to you, perhaps a teacher, parent, spiritual guide, boss, or someone working in an institution like the law or medical profession, even a community figurehead. The affirmation associated with this card is, my contribution makes a positive difference in the world. And the crystal aligned with this card, sodalite, is a deep blue stone, very similar to lapis lazuli, which is associated with the Emperor card in this book, with calcite inclusions that can make beautiful swirling patterns like a tiny blue planet. Sodalite brings the heart and mind together to achieve mental and emotional clarity, helping you find your truth and your voice. Sodalite is also often associated with idealism and can help you stand up for your beliefs and bring groups or communities together in solidarity and trust for a communal purpose. Use sodalite to strengthen your heart whenever you feel your faith in humanity waning. And you know what this card also seems to embody the energy of? Saturn in Pisces, which just so happens to be turning direct on the very same day as this full moon. Saturn, ruler of another earth sign, Capricorn, in astrology represents discipline, structure, responsibility, and boundaries. Often called the taskmaster or lord of karma, Saturn's influence is challenging but crucial for growth, as it requires us to confront our fears, embrace limitations, and ultimately work towards self-mastery. As a planet associated with time and tradition, Saturn emphasizes the importance of patience, dedication, and learning from experience. In the highly spiritual sign of Pisces, it helps us balance our practical responsibilities with spiritual growth, learning to manifest our dreams while embracing compassion with boundaries. The fact that Saturn in Pisces turns direct on the same day as the Taurus full moon adds another layer of powerful energy to the already transformative astrological climate, suggesting a balance between the material and the spiritual, asking us to move forward with grounded actions that also honor our dreams and intuition. While Taurus energy seeks practicality and tangible results, Pisces seeks to connect with the intangible, the emotional, and the spiritual. When Saturn turns direct, it signals a shift from a period of retrograde, reflection, and review into forward motion and integration of the lessons learned. In Pisces, Saturn encourages us to bring structure, discipline, and practicality to our dreams, spirituality, and emotional boundaries. Saturn in Pisces is all about learning emotional maturity, especially in areas like surrender, compassion, and empathy. This influence invites us to take responsibility for our emotional health and create realistic emotional boundaries that allow us to give and receive love without overextending ourselves. And clearly, this is definitely a lesson I'm still learning. And Saturn making this move on the day that the moon is at its peak, it's illuminating the notion that our spiritual beliefs can provide the foundation for practical action and long-term success, and reminding us of the need to bring discipline and structure into our spiritual practice, as well as our creative and emotional endeavors. Another beneficial aspect aligning on this day is the Moon-Uranus conjunction in Taurus, forming a sextile to Neptune in Pisces and a trine to Pluto in Capricorn, forming a minor grand trine, bringing together powerful, transformative, and potentially surprising energies. A minor grand trine in astrology is a harmonious configuration, creating a dynamic yet balanced flow, encouraging action and opportunity. The trine aspect provides a natural and effortless connection between the two planets, while the sextile with the third planet offers chances for practical expression and growth. This configuration creates a blend of harmony and action, promoting both comfort and motivation. Uranus, the planet of rebellion, innovation, and sudden shifts, is shaking things up in Taurus, the sign known for stability, security, and the material world. This conjunction could challenge us to rethink our values, how we approach our material needs, and even how we define security in a world that is rapidly changing. It wants us to challenge the status quo, especially in the realms of material security and values. There might be an urge to break free from old habits, particularly those connected to our relationship with money, possessions, or comfort. Taurus asks us to appreciate the simple, grounded things in life, but Uranus demands change, urging us to question whether we're too comfortable and to find new, authentic ways to build our foundations. A sextile to Neptune in Pisces adds a mystical, intuitive layer to the full moon. Neptune, the planet of dreams, intuition, and collective unconscious. Well, hello there. This is Skylar, everyone. Clearly she wants to say hi. Okay, can you go lay down now? No more. Go lay down. Neptune, the planet of dreams, intuition, and the collective unconscious, in the mystical sign of Pisces, connects us to the spiritual and the emotional realms. This aspect invites us to trust our intuition, letting go of the need for logical explanations. Neptune's influence can bring healing energy and deep emotional understanding, which can help us to navigate the uncertainties Uranus might stir up. What's going on? Can you just relax? The sextile to Neptune opens up intuitive and spiritual insights, supporting creative breakthroughs and emotional healing. Neptune's influence can bring healing energy and deep emotional understanding, which can help us to navigate the uncertainties that Uranus might be stirring up for us. With both the full moon and Uranus, this is a great time for letting go of old emotional patterns and stepping into a more fluid, inspired vision for our future. The sextile to Neptune opens up intuitive and spiritual insights, supporting creative breakthroughs and emotional healing. And if this energy wasn't already potent enough, the trine to Pluto in Capricorn brings an even more powerful and transformative energy to this full moon. Pluto is all about deep transformation, power, and the unconscious. And in Capricorn, it asks us to transform our relationship to authority, structures, and long-term goals. The trine aspect brings harmony, making it easier to work with Pluto's transformative energy and integrate deep shifts in a constructive way. This could be an excellent time to shed old limiting beliefs about power, security, and success, especially when it comes to your material world and how you achieve your goals. Pluto helps us release what no longer serves us, and the trine energy helps us feel supported and capable in making those transformative shifts, especially if we take an empowered approach to change. The combination of these three planets forming a minor grand trine with the Taurus full moon is giving us a powerful opportunity here. By combining spiritual wisdom and practical action, we can build lasting structures for the future, aligning with both our dreams and material goals. The energy invites us to embrace change and commit to long-term goals in both our personal lives and the world around us. So if you're looking to integrate the energies of this Taurus full moon into your life, consider the values and routines that make you feel grounded. Maybe that's creating a self-care ritual, investing in something meaningful to you, or slowing down to truly savor each moment. By integrating Taurus energy, you are honoring the earth element that's within you, the part of you that seeks to be present, patient, and in love with the beauty of life. So go out in nature, savor your meals, and spend time reflecting or journaling about your sense of self-worth. What do you really appreciate about yourself? It's such a powerful way to cultivate that Venusian self-love and appreciation, and to really understand your inherent net worth that extends far beyond just the material world. So at this time, take a moment to truly feel your appreciation and acknowledge the wealth that already surrounds you, the abundance that you hold deep within you. It is within this quiet place of contentment that true prosperity grows, fulfilling and sustaining us in every way. Just remember, patience and persistence are at the heart of Taurus. Think of a tree that grows year by year, expanding its roots deep into the earth. That's Taurus energy in action. It's the part of us that values what takes time to build and encourages us to enjoy the process instead of just rushing to the finish line. This Taurus full moon is a time to refocus on what truly matters and trust in our inner guidance, regardless of life's ups and downs or however long it takes. It's a time to recenter our vision of what is most important and remind ourselves that we can always rely on our inner compass no matter what life hands us. So with the sun in Scorpio opposing the moon Uranus-Algol Conjunction in Taurus, we're guided to navigate the push-pull between comfort and intense transformation. Scorpio's energy pulls us into the emotional depths of our psyche and asks us to honestly look at our shadows, while Taurus provides grounding to confront these revelations without losing our sense of stability in the process, no matter how jarring it may be. The Scorpio sun encourages us to trust in transformation, knowing that shedding old layers makes way for growth to shine through, while the Taurus moon asks us to root ourselves in the calmness of self-love and resilience. Although Algol has a bad reputation for its dark energy, it also represents the potential to confront deep-seated fears and transmute them into strength. So this star is truly our ally at this time. And with Uranus involved, you are sure to have a breakthrough. It just might not be one that you were expecting. But whatever it is, Saturn in Pisces has been right there waiting to back you up with all the spiritual support that you can get, along with Neptune right by his side. Saturn's direct motion can help us to integrate and ground all the changes to build something lasting. And Pluto, well, he lives for this stuff. And in just a few days' time, he'll finally be complete with Capricorn and then on to Aquarius, continuing to do what he does, transforming humanity as we know it. So as we move forward, just remember, sometimes we carry hidden doubts about whether we're easy to care for or deserving of support, sadly shaped by past experiences more often than not. But even still, holding on to these beliefs can make it challenging to open up to fully receive from others, as well as all the abundance that the universe has to offer. So recognize these thoughts with compassion and just allow yourself to accept the fact that everyone deserves not just to feel loved, but also allowed to be who they truly are. By acknowledging and working through these feelings, you allow yourself to build genuine connections and embrace the security of being cared for without hesitation. So trust that your worthiness isn't dependent on being easy. It simply is. So rest and just be who you just naturally are. And I will be right there with you, working on following through on my own advice, just taking care of being me. As you make your way through the energy of this full moon, feel its power bring you to the beauty of your soul. Let it illuminate your strength, your perseverance, and your power to create your life. Connect deeply with your body and senses to feel your way through this period of your life. And let yourself bask in the present moment under the light of the Taurus moon. Pause. Find stillness. Then dive deep into the unknown, releasing any fear that's holding you back, knowing that you will always be able to save yourself. And the truth is, if you're looking for a savior, it just means you haven't spent enough time with yourself to know that it's you. It's always been you. It's all there is. You're the only one that can truly do it. Well, I hope you found this video helpful. If so, please let me know with a thumbs up and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear. I'm sending you much love and light, and until next time, shine bright, star siblings.